Welcome to the program. I'm Mark Imperial. This segment's being brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals get their books done to educate consumers, grow their practices, and to leave a legacy. I'm doing a series of spotlights on remarkable advisors from across the country. Joining me on this segment is Brock Brenneman. He's a managing partner with Healthier Money. Brock, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Brock, tell us a little bit about your work and specifically, who are the types of clients that you help?
Yeah, so with our firm, we're really focused on reducing risk, and we're more focused on what people could potentially lose in a given month or a given year than maybe what they could make, right? We believe that if we do a good job keeping people out of harm's way, especially with a lot of the unpredictability in the markets today, that they should be able to get to where they want to be, and we can hopefully do it more predictable, more safe. So the kind of clients that we work with are twofold, right? I'm a little younger, so I'm really focused on working with individuals kind of in that 30 to 50 range who are closer to age to me and who are really saving for retirement still and trying to plan and be proactive. And then our founder, Pat, is actually a little bit older, and he identifies really well with that 50 to 70 age range, to where they're maybe already retired or very close, and they're just trying to make sure that they're going to be all right, and they want to make sure they have a plan that will get them to where they want to be.
Tell me a little bit about the age demographic that you work with, that 30 to 50, the younger folks. What are their main concerns? They must be a little bit different.
Yeah. If you're 29, that's okay. We don't discriminate. So don't think that you have to be 30 to start. But
In fact, the earlier the better, right?
the earlier the better. If you know anything about time value of money and all that, the earlier definitely the better. So I just found that a lot of my friends or people that I had been connecting with who were my age really just were of the opinion, oh, I'll figure that out, in the future, right? Right now, there's just so many life things they're trying to figure out, and they're trying to figure out how to pay for those things. But what I like to do is go through and look at what they have going on, right? And I call it their cash flow based on their income and their expenses. And if they have excess money each month, let's make sure we're being efficient with that money and allocate that to different places, so that even if you are never looking at it, you have stuff going away for the future, for savings, and ideally stuff that's earning interest that's well beyond what the bank might pay you. So I really love working with those people, because I know if they start now, even on a very small scale, they're going to be amazed what they have in the future. And there's a lot more flexibility I can do with them, compared to people who might come to our office who haven't done anything and they're older. That's obviously tougher. We have to really sit down and say, hey, you need to, really make some drastic things in order to get to where you want to be. But it's so much easier when you're younger. Like you said, the earlier the better. And so that's kind of been my sweet spot and what really makes me excited about, working in this business.
Yeah, tell me a little bit more about like some of the maybe myths or misconceptions out there, because people don't know the earlier the better, the time value of money. What are some things that younger folks kind of have in their mind that may be a myth or misconception that they hear that might be sabotaging their success? What don't they know?
Yeah, so I think one thing is just there's so much information out there today, and this field in particular, it seems like everyone has a little bit of an opinion or a differing opinion, right? So you could talk to me, and I may feel one way about things, then you talk to someone else, and they may have a totally different view of it, and neither of us are really right or wrong. But I think sometimes all that information leads to overthinking, which leads to inaction. So what I would really say is it doesn't even, I mean, it matters, but it doesn't really matter where you're putting your money per se to start. It's much more important that you are just doing something, right? You could be putting money on almost the worst place, but you're at worst case scenario going to at least have some savings built up. You're going to be doing better than most people. So I'd say almost to start, just try to get your mindset around saving and putting money away. And then we can really start, especially as you have more money down the road, figuring out, well, where is this money going? Let's make sure it's as efficient as possible when it comes to potential losses or tax implications or all these things. So that's what I see most of the time. It's just, hey, Brock, I don't know what to do with this. I have money I want to put away, but I don't know what to do, so I'm not doing anything. You just got to start, frankly. And that might sound cliche, but you just got to start.
On the other side of that coin, I've heard young folks say, Hey, I don't have any money to manage. So what's the point of even starting? Like how little can you really start with?
I mean, you can seriously start with, $10. These days online, I know there's big companies out there, Fidelity, Vanguard, these massive companies that have done a great job of offering low cost investments, and you could open an account. You don't really need to pay some, big time advisor to help you when you're at that level. So you could easily just set up an account. Hey, I'm going to put $10 a month into my account and maybe invest it in things that I identify with. And just that, you'll be amazed by the end of the year what you might have. And then what I found, what I really like is what I found is people get started, they start to really get into it, right? They're like, dang, I didn't even miss that $10. Maybe I could do $20 or $100. And next thing you know, they're really, really invested in their own plan. And like I said, if you start young, you'll be amazed at what can build up on just a small dollar amount.
And I think the big light switch that went off for me was the feeling that the money's leaving you, but it's really just going in another pocket. So and it's growing. So that was like a light switch for me myself.
Yeah, I feel like people have a little bit of they're scared of having another account. So they're like, wow, it's just so much to manage. But like you said, it's not like you're buying something. It's not like you're contributing $100 a month to your internet bill. It's $100 that you're putting away, and depending on the account, sometimes it's very accessible if you get in a pinch. But I just think today, with everything going on, if you can just have a little money put away, you're going to feel so much better. And if there's a lot of uncertainty out there and you know that, hey, I'm all right if something happens or if there's an emergency, you have the money available, which is nice. But ideally, we just put it away, keep doing it for a long term, because no one I talk to wants to work forever. So then we have a plan set up to where you're 50 or 60. People my age seem like they want to retire earlier and earlier every day. The only way that's going to happen is if you are really saving and focusing on that.
Hey, as a result of this pandemic, has that changed anything as far as like strategies go or just in the mindset of your prospects and clients? What's the pandemic done?
So I think we were on such a run with everything was going up, right? Everyone was making money. It was not hard to make money. So I think the pandemic kind of shocked people a little bit, but frankly, it was so fast, people came right back to normal that, it's almost like they've forgotten about it already. But so we haven't seen a huge change, but one thing I have seen is people saying, hey, I'm a little worried if something like that happens again. I didn't really think about it. So when I talked earlier about focusing on protection more so than, what's my neighbor making, right? I've seen more people opening up to stuff like that, knowing, all right, if I'm at least protected and I have a good plan, or maybe I need a little help instead of doing it myself, that's what they're looking at. And, we really try to focus on things that'll give people, tax-free retirement. That way, if, something happens in the future or tax is going up, they know, all right, our plan is set up to where that's not going to affect me. So one thing we really try to focus on, what are the biggest things that'll hinder you in retirement? Potentially taxes, potentially market loss, right? So if we can solve for those, we're going to be okay. So those are really some of the things we focus on.
Great insight. Brock, what inspired you to get into this field and help people with their finances? How did you get started?
Yeah, so I had a job out of college that really wasn't in this field. And I was young, and a lot of my people that I was hanging out with at work were young, and we just didn't really know what we were doing, but we were very into it, right? We were always talking about money, talking about different things. And I actually had a client that was this company, Healthier Money, and I would always talk to them and be just infatuated with all the different ideas and insight I was getting just from talking with them. So, not overnight, but over time, I eventually decided, hey, I want to work with this company, and I don't want to make this just, hey, my money's good. I want to really take what I've learned and give it to as much people as I can. So one of the biggest things that I've loved is, all those people that I was working with in the past, a lot of them come to me now for questions and whatnot. And that's been my favorite because, I see their eyeballs light up, or I see them go from, I'm just going to be paycheck to paycheck forever, to now I have a really good plan set up. So that's really how I got started. And, that was a few years ago. And, I have a lot of just growth in this business to where now I'm actively working with people one-on-one, just myself, and helping them implement their plans, and ideally just trying to get them to where they want to go, but with a lot more security and a lot more certainty.
Fantastic. Before I ask you my last question, Brock, for folks listening that really want to get started and maybe put it off, and what would you suggest would be the most important thing that they should consider when choosing an advisor to work with?
Yeah, so I'll say two things. One, when I was young, I would just Google compound interest calculator, right? And you could do that. And there's a couple of really good ones. And you could put in, hey, I want to invest $500 a month for 20 years, right? And then it shows you a hypothetical based on what interest rate you put in, what that dollar amount is down the road, right? And then you could adjust it slightly. All right, instead of 20 years of saving and growing, let's just put it at 19 years or 18 years. That might not sound like a big deal, but you'll be amazed by how less money you have in the future. So I think if someone does that, takes the time to really do that, that should motivate you, right? You might look at that and waiting 1 year, you might have $30,000 less in your account. So I think for most people, if I paid them $30,000 right now, they would get started, right? So that should motivate them. And then secondly, when choosing an advisor, I think it just all comes down to you guys being on the same page. I always tell people when we talk, it's just as much about me interviewing you as you interviewing me. You have to feel comfortable with me, but I don't want to work with someone who has different goals in line. So if you're telling me I want to get really aggressive, maybe they want to get into crypto and stuff. That's not really what we do, right? We're much more, steady Eddie. We're more long-term focused, get you to where you want to be with some certainty. But if you guys are not on the same page, even if you work together for a year or two, eventually it's just not going to work. So A, make sure that you obviously feel good with that person, you trust them, but B, you guys got to be on the same page because everyone invests differently. Everyone saves and plans differently.
Terrific. Brock, for folks listening now that would love to speak with you specifically, how do they find you, connect with you, and learn more?
Yeah, so my email is Brock, BROCK, at healthiermoney.com. Our company name is Healthier Money, and we're located in Arizona, but we have clients really all over the country. And then you could call our phone too. It's 602-789-3099. My direct extension is number 2. So any of those ways work. We try to be active online as well. So if you are on Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn, just Google our company, and some way, somehow, if you want to chat, we'll find a way to chat with you. Nowadays with Zoom, we do a lot of these with people all over the country. So happy to talk with anyone who just has a question or wants to learn more.
Hey, Brock, this has been terrific. I really appreciate you taking the time today and sharing with my audience. I wish you continued success for you and for all of your clients.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark, for having me. It was great.
That was Brock Brenneman. He's a managing partner with Healthier Money. And this segment's been brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals get their books done to educate consumers, grow their practices, and to leave a legacy. That's all for now. I'm Mark Imperial, and thanks for joining me.